We just helped a business get $750,000 in financing. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how this happened, how this business put themselves in a position to get $750,000, and the things you can do based on this story to put yourself in a great position for financing. In my opinion, this is actually quite a relatable business and relatable story. And the most surprising part of this story is that this business was only looking for $250,000, but ended up taking $750K. I'll tell you how that happened, and I'll reveal the lender they used. Overall, this is an incredible story on financing that is relevant for any small business owner and entrepreneur. This video is brought to you by Skip Plus. A huge thank you to the tens of thousands of business owners who are Skip Plus members, getting unlimited grant and funding opportunities, insights, and reminders. If you're an entrepreneur and want to make sure you never miss out on new grant or funding opportunities, I highly recommend Skip Plus. This should be an essential part of your business. You'll always be in the know about funding, and you can start a free trial with the link in the description or at helloskip.com/plus. Okay, let's start at the beginning. This business, which I'll say more about in a minute, had a growth goal in mind, and that's what started this entire process. They were only seeking $250K and yet ended up accepting $750K. There were three things that led to this outcome that I think are relatable to most entrepreneurs and small business owners. Number one, they didn't want to give up ownership. Number two, they had a good track record. And number three, they had a plan, including a revenue growth goal. Keep those three things in mind. Let me first start with the plan this business had. They wanted to achieve 50% year-over-year revenue growth. They realized last month that in order to hit that goal, they needed more upfront capital to go after bigger projects and bigger customers. The long or the short, they knew they needed funding to go after bigger customers and increase their revenue. That's the first major takeaway in this story. This business, which has been around for quite some time, they knew that lack of capital was limiting their growth potential. If and when you decide to seek financing, loans, or even grants, make sure you have a why, as in, why do you need the funding? Ideally, that will directly link back to, in most cases, revenue growth. Remember that lesson for later in the story. In fact, this directly affects how they end up getting offered $750,000. The second important thing in this story, which I think has become the way to go for entrepreneurs and small business owners, is that they didn't want to give up company ownership. They had been independently owned since they started and did not want to give that up for venture capital or other financing that would be traded for ownership in the company. And in fact, they had VC funding as an option. But just because you have something as an option doesn't mean it's the best option for you. There are countless examples of businesses from zero revenue to the double-digit millions in revenue who gave up company ownership at the wrong time or for the wrong amount of money and ended up struggling or shutting down as a result. This company, in fact, had significant revenue, which I'll reveal in a minute, but revenue is beside the point. This company knew they wanted financing and the amount, and they knew that they did not want to give up ownership. So that's the first two important points of this story that I hope you remember, whether you're looking for 50K, 100K, 750K, or $5 million. Now we get to point number three. And finally, at this point, I can tell you that this was a 15-year-old landscaping company with over $10 million in revenue. Yes, they had many highs and lows throughout their 15-year history, but they had, like I said, put together a funding goal based on their business strategy. To get to 50% year-over-year growth, they wanted to de-emphasize smaller residential landscaping jobs and accelerate growth with larger customers like companies and municipalities. They reached out to numerous banks, but the process was tedious. They couldn't meet the requirements. Some of it had to do with speed, some of it about the interest rates, some about the terms of the deal. In fact, this is more common than you might think. I mean, this year especially, as loan approvals get more and more difficult, most lenders are increasing requirements or making the terms less attractive. An example of this is lenders requiring higher credit scores or higher annual revenues. Those are the two most common we've been seeing. But all that being said, if you know where to look and how to prepare, you can get funded. We connected this business with Fora Financial because we had a hunch Fora could be a good option for them. This business already had familiarity with Fora, so that was a plus, and Fora can often get deals done quickly. Turns out an offer was on the table, but when it came back, incredibly, it was $500,000 higher than they initially wanted. So how did that happen from 250K to 750K? Well, from the lender's perspective, they say that this business had a clear plan for growth and a clear plan on how they would use these funds. AKA, they had a business plan. And by the way, if you don't have one, I left a link in the description on how you can get a good business plan. Anyway, after reviewing the business strategy, Fora came back with a $750,000 offer. And I'll mention at this point, if you want to learn more about Fora Financial, you can use our partner link in the description. If you end up getting financed through them, that's amazing. And you're also supporting Skip and our channel. So it's a win-win. But from the business standpoint, why did they decide to accept an offer 3 times the size of the loan they were looking for? 3 times the size, that's not very common. Well, as it turns out, they realized taking more money would only help their revenue growth goals to acquire more materials and hire more people. And they also liked the early payoff discounts that Fora provided. The deal was signed and the money was wired. And the big and of this story is that this is not just a story about this one 15-year-old landscaping business with $10 million in revenue and how they got $750,000. It's a lesson for every entrepreneur and small business owner to always start with the need in mind, which ideally is tied to a revenue growth goal. If you can work backwards and determine how you plan to use funding to grow your business, you'll be more attractive to potential lenders, and most importantly, you'll be getting funding for the right reasons. All capital, unless you're applying for one of the dozens of grants on the Skip app, comes with a cost. If you're confident in how you'll use the funds to grow, you're much more likely to take capital at the right time and for the right amount. And this will be apparent to good lenders, and frankly, those are the types of lenders that you want. Thanks for watching, and if you want to check out Fora Financial, use the link in the description. If you want to stay up to date on all things funding, be sure you're subscribed. Consider becoming a Skip Plus member or check out these videos here on other incredible funding stories. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.